Hello, everyone, and welcome to Phoenix Gaming. I am your host, Nick Henning, and today we are doing something different that we haven't done before. I am going to do kind of like a review and a playthrough for a game. This is not a review channel. Primarily, this is a strategy channel, but there's a couple of reasons that I think Skyteam is worth talking about, and there's a couple of reasons that I want to start doing videos like this. So a couple of things that this video is going to not be. I am going to do a short review, but it's really just going to be kind of my take, my opinion, my critique pretty quickly on it. For those of you who don't know, I do a podcast with John of John Gets Games and my other friend Anastasia, and the three of us talk on this show that's on the John Gets Games channel called Friendly Ties, where we like tear apart games in good ways and bad ways. Like it's always something that we generally have played a bunch of and have strong opinions about, and so I really love discussing games. That's not primarily what this channel is about, but I do think that there's space in games for people to talk about their opinions about games without sort of showing you what the game is. So if you want to know how to play this game, what the general mechanisms or what the kind of like B-roll footage looks like, there are a ton of other content creators that make that stuff. They do a great job, and that's not at all what I'm going to do. I also want to talk about how Skyteam, I think, as a game, and I want to start doing this with other games, can up your skill in other games. This year's World Series of Board Gaming winner, Angela, said something in an interview that I thought was just incredibly insightful and is something that I fully agree with. And it's, if you want to get good at a specific game, you also need to play other games. Just sort of being diversely aware of how mechanisms work and how players interact with certain mechanisms will up your play kind of across the board. Even if you're mostly interested in a couple things, by playing many different things, you're going to start seeing different tactics, different strategies, different approaches, and it's really going to level up what it is that you're doing, I think, faster than, playing the same game several hundred times, which I also advocate for. But maybe you can't have it all, and I think diversity is very, very powerful. Without any further ado, let's dive into it. And so, on this first turn here, we get these two traffic dice, which means that we're going to roll two random dice and add two planes. So we really need to get off this spot. And this is a long, long runway. He's kind of indicated that he doesn't own a 2. So I need to make sure that we get off there. Also, we kind of need to tilt in my direction. So I'm actually going to start off by saying, hey, if you want to tilt to the right here, play like a 3 or a 4 is going to let me kind of go off in that way, and sort of suggested maybe that 3 is his lower number. I mean, he could have a 1 as well. That doesn't really fit anywhere, but yeah, I think having that 4 was not surprising given what he'd started off here. Now, ideally, he would have like a 6 on the engines. We could go shooting 2 spaces. But frankly, if we move just 1, it's fine. This is the best I can do, my friend. Sorry about that. And so kerosene, one of us can play on kerosene. We're going to either, if no one plays on kerosene, we're going to lose 6 on this track. Otherwise, it's whatever number you play on there. And if you ever go into the negatives, you auto lose the game. So we've now tilted in the right direction. It's going to let us move next turn. It would have been nice to move 2 just to be here. We've got the time to kind of move ahead. And normally here, actually, what I would do with this one is I'd play on the kerosene. But because we have synchronization here as our special power, it basically says when we both do an action of these 2, we get a free extra random die. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to jam this over on the kerosene there, which works out nicely. But if we hadn't rolled, if I'd rolled a 5 or 6, that would have been a little unfortunate. So I think my co-pilot here maybe jumped the gun a little bit, or he's the main pilot, I'm the co-pilot, maybe jumped the gun a little bit here by playing here early, but it's okay. Now here, we'd really like to move just 1 space if possible. And we're tilted in the right direction, so we want to move early, I think. I'm actually going to first clear this plane, though, that's out of our way. We don't want to end on this traffic die space. We want to end on this space and then move to the subsequent turn. And we should have really discussed this at the beginning. You'll find this oftentimes on, okay, so he wants me to push the flaps. Sure, let's see what we get. A 4. I mean, 4 is pretty good to put here. Yep. We're going to put a 4 right there because essentially now he could play a 3, a 4, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Wait, 10, 9, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Anything that's a 3 to 10. So 3, 4, 5, 6 will give us just the single move, which is the goal. What did he do as his action? Oh, he went on the tilt here. Well, I don't want to tilt before we move. So this is an awkward number for our tilts. I could play a 1 on here. Yeah, we got to move first. I think it was a mistake on his part to not push the move first. Now I can't put this 1 on the kerosene because I need to be able to tilt just one space this way. Or I could put the 1 on the kerosene. He moves us. No, then we spin out of control. So we're a little stuck because of the way that went. So we're going to play here on the coffee just to prevent shenanigans from happening. He really needs to play on move now. Otherwise, we're going to spin into the wrong lane. Like, we are already facing the correct direction. So yeah, now I'm forced to play on this location. And yeah, hopefully he has a low move. I mean, we're just in trouble. Guess I should have communicated at the beginning. I should have taken a hint from the fact that he maybe only had played 2 games so far, or has only won 2 games so far. But this is where the sequencing example really comes into play. Like, it's fine to play these flaps and landing gears first, because we get the extra die, we get the information to see what to do with that. But you really got to think about, like, when do I want to tilt, especially on these maps with the tilt things that matters, and when do I want to move. All right, so let me start off by talking about why I think Skyteam is a game that is valuable for almost any board game player to play. So it's a 2-player co-op, which is a really specific niche thing. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the review part, but I play a lot of cooperative games. Cooperative games help you get into the guts of a system, and I think they are especially helpful because you're usually beating a game, or you're beating a puzzle. You know, you're beating the environment, as it were, PvE instead of PvP, player versus environment instead of player versus player. And a lot of Euro games, you know, ones that are more maligned for their multiplayer solitaireness, you can get away with playing the game rather than playing your opponents or playing against other players. And so by getting good at cooperative games, you're just getting good at games and gaming in general in those systems. So Skyteam and all cooperative games certainly has that. Now, there's a reason I chose Skyteam aside from the fact that it's new and hot and on Board Game Arena. It is a game that has a mechanism that I would call signaling. If you are familiar with Magic Gathering, signaling is a term that they use in that to essentially help people when they're drafting. And the idea is that if you notice the signals, which is really just saying like, hey, you notice what's been going on, or more accurately, what's not been going on. And it might indicate, oh, the player on a certain side of me is or is not playing certain colors. And since that it's a drafting game, and I would like to draft the best deck against anyone at the table, my goal is to play colors that are maybe not the same as the colors of the person right next to me. I think a lot of games benefit from the concept of signaling. You want to be able to suss out what it is that your opponents are going to do. In a worker placement game, this is invaluable. You want to be able to either jump on something early if you're concerned that your opponents are going to take it, you need it, or you want to get out of the way of certain plans if you think that there's something else you can do and you think your opponents are going to head in a certain direction. So they might not be trying to signal you, but there are still moves that people make in games that are going to indicate something. If you're playing with a player who's very good and you're playing in a competitive context, when someone does something that makes you raise an eyebrow and say, that doesn't really make any sense, you need to stop and ask yourself, is there a reason, a strange reason perhaps, why someone would be doing that? Because if there is, there's a really increased chance that that player, who's a good player, who you know is capable of playing the game, would make that kind of play. This is different from playing at a game night with random people. You don't know them. If you're in a tournament setting and you're a couple rounds in, someone's already won a few games to get where you're at. If you're playing with your friends, you have a sense of what they're like. Those kinds of signals can really level up what it is that you're doing in a game, paying attention to those kinds of plays that people are making. Skyteam is a game entirely about sending signals. You are looking at what your partner is playing in dice and saying, okay, we knew what common objective we had, and you chose to play that number die in that location first. Does that make sense to me, or is that suspicious? If it makes sense to me, then, hey, maybe you have the dice that do exactly what we talked about and want to accomplish this game or this round. If they didn't, then, well, maybe something isn't going so right, and you need to be aware that you might be in trouble and prepare for those kinds of situations. I think Skyteam is a wonderful example of making sense of the board and not just going tunnel vision on what's supposed to happen. You will see that happen in practice games that you play. And those are the main reasons why I think that Skyteam is well worth your time to check out. I think it can up your skill in other games by getting a sense of that signaling component and playing something cooperatively with someone else to pull together information that's imperfect to make a plan that feels more perfect. That is helpful in every game context. So I can't clear this guy. I think the most important thing is that I can communicate what our tilt looks like, or I could clear one of those. What do I want to do? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think these are where I want my 4 dice to go because I got that 1. Let's clear this. We want to be flexible in our speed. We want to be flexible on our speed because if he can't clear this, he doesn't have a 2, then we can only move 1 space. So you put a 6. Yeah, so he really might not have the 2 to clear this. Playing the 3 here. We can't move 2 spaces, so I can't use the 6. Just going to be pretty awkward in a second because I'm going to... Actually, I probably shouldn't have used this 3 to start off with. Yeah, awkwardly, I'm going to move forward. So now if he has 1s, he can clear this. And then I'm going to swing us in the wrong direction. And then he'll have to fix it next turn. I mean, we've got another turn, so it's not that big a deal. But we need a 2 to clear this guy. I need a low number to move this. That's nice and easy. And we only really want to move 1 space. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could use the 1 or the 2. No problem there. I think we're going to clear. We don't need to clear because we only want to move one space anyway. And then we're going to flip back. So we're going to actually use the 2 here. The reason we're changing our mind is because this is kind of the axis we want to be on anyway. We'd like to move only one space here. By the fact that he's played his speed die, he's indicating that he didn't have a 2, I think, to clear that plane. So moving forward, let's him use a 1 if he had a 1. Looks like he's just got big dice. The 6, I think, seems like he just has big dice. So we'll do the kerosene again. I think the 6 is gonna we're gonna throw it on our flaps, but we could grab coffee. I'm just gonna get this out of the way, not have to worry about it. Since we're not playing with a synchronization, we don't have to worry about our timing. All right, let's start off by clearing this plane. Oh, what we really want is for him to be able to clear one of the planes. We'll clear the other plane. So, and then we want to move 2. So I'm actually going to put this here. I could maybe have used working together and shipped him one of these dice, but I kind of want to see what he plays. So 1 goes there. I'll clear the other one with a 2. And now if he just plays a 5 or 6, we can shoot past this traffic die. Very good. And then we'll throw this on the axis just because it's very convenient. Hopefully he can match it or just increase it by 1. Nice middle die there, so if we need to use coffee or anything, we're good. And then we'll just do our kerosene thing again. We need to slow down a little bit, I think, at this stage. And we're sitting relatively pretty. I mean, we need to tilt to the right a little bit. And just going one at a time. This is a bad roll for us, but we can maybe use working together to fix it depending on when he puts it in play. If we have to use a reroll, we can use a reroll as well. I like to save the rerolls until emergency situations. This 5 is deeply not helpful for us. It's deeply not helpful for him either. But I think I'm gonna use working together and see if he has something. If he understands what I'm saying, and I'm saying I'm giving you this 5, he might interpret that to say, hey, if I have a 3 or a 4, that's what you need from me. So hopefully he's understanding what I'm kind of trying to communicate by giving him the same die number as the one he just played onto here. And he might not even have a 3 or a 4 himself, in which case we can just use a coffee, which is all right. Perfect. We spoke the same language. Thank you. Working together is one of the ability cards you get to choose at the beginning of the game. And I think this is one that's pretty unpopular. I don't see people use it very often. I think it's better in certain scenarios especially where like the 2 players need to have a lopsided need for dice, which I think matters more in like wind scenarios and things like that. Just keep on doing this thing. At some point we're going to have to deploy the brakes, but not today. I think we're going to use the 5 for move because we want to keep moving. We can move 1 or 2. 10 is going to move us 1. And then the other 1 becomes our flap. We're sitting relatively pretty right now. Not a lot of things that we have left to do. I need to deploy the brakes and everything, but otherwise we're looking great. We need to make sure we move sufficient spaces too. Rolls like this aren't really going to help us too much. I'm going to jam this 6 right now, because if he has a 5 or 6, we could just fly straight into port. That's good. If he does indeed do that, we'll throw the other one down here and then, you know, leave him to figure that out. I think we're just going to leave him to figure it out anyway. There's only so much we can do about it. I guess we could re-roll, but... Nice. And then we might use this one as a 2 for break. So we only moved 1 space, but that's okay. I think we're going to do it. I don't think he needs to do anything in particular right now. So we'll use this coffee. And then we can just ignore kerosene for the rest of the game. All right. We want to move the 1 space. We have to move the 1 space. That's not too hard to pull off, especially with these rolls for us. So we can just kind of match whatever he plays. We could do the exact same with this, although I think we want to wait. Ideally, I want to put a 6 down here because now I'm giving him lots of options about what he can play here, which I think is good. He doesn't need really low dice for anything. He needs higher dice for this, so we want to push the speed. He can then speed in, and then if we want, we can play the 5 to level ourselves out. 3 goes on here, 4 goes on our break. This actually was a pretty perfect roll, all things told. Him not moving makes us a little nervous. I guess we'll play the 3 here because we can use the 4 to just keep the same bearing if he doesn't move us. I guess the downside of this, also doing this in this order, is that if he had a 1, now he has to make it a 2. He's in no hurry, so I'm just going to take this to mean that he thinks we're fine. And we'll re-roll if a nightmare happens. Great. All right, so we just need to go slow now. And we'll do that. What did he do? You can re-roll dice. I don't think I need this 1 for anything. The 5 could become a 6 if we need extra breaks. The 2 is closer to the middle for axis stuff. The 6 could just become a 6 too, and now I've got more things in the middle. Right now my 2, 5, and a coffee basically touches everything. All right, I assume him playing a 2 there is good. So let's assume he has others. Let's just throw this on breaks. I don't think there's anything. I think probably we've won and he's just being conservative by playing coffee. He's just gonna... I mean, I can use special ability working together to give it to him. All right, there we have it. Okay, so let's talk mini review. I had low expectations for Skyteam. There was a fair amount of hype, I think, going into SN or Gen Con or both about this game. And I'm not entirely sure why exactly. I don't know like what made people so excited. But it came out on Board Game Arena, and I tried it out, and this game is kind of rocking, honestly. It is just a little puzzle. There is certainly like a kind of like best way to play every round. And then the question you're sort of being asked by your dice is, can we do the best thing every round? This game alternates between speaking times and non-speaking times. So it essentially says at the beginning of every round, like, hey, you can make the perfect plan together. But then you roll the dice and you're no longer allowed to talk to each other. And so the way that you're meant to communicate in this game is by what dice it is that you choose to play and what locations at what time and in what order. And that allows you to essentially talk to your partner through the strategy of the game. I think that's a really beautiful way of doing a cooperative game. This genuinely feels like I need to be a little bit more in tune with what it is that you're doing, because we can't agree or make decisions together once the dice have been rolled. And that's when the things get tough. The other thing I really like about this from a cooperative game perspective is that at the beginning of the round, we can discuss the rules or the best strategy, or like, oh wait, if we move over these traffic dice, how does that work? So we can remove all of the like kind of the questions that might come into play. When you're playing something like Captain Sonar or the things with a kind of a time component, by asking a question, you've sort of like ruined the flow of the game or interrupted the like state of what's going on. In this case, you have a moment to do that, and then you have the kind of intense, you have to focus time. I also really like that this game has an optional time component for the more difficult scenarios. That's a fun little addition that I think really ramps it up, but I love timed games, so that's maybe just kind of a personal preference there. But that back and forth between players, I think, really is something that is quite unique to this game. I generally don't consider picking up games to own in person that I would that I've played on Board Game Arena. I can play them on there plenty of times. Skyteam is a game that I will be not actively looking for, because I could just hop on Amazon and buy it right now, or maybe not Amazon, but I'll maybe buy from the publisher or something like that. But I could absolutely see lazily picking this up, particularly secondhand, at any kind of like sale, because I would love to play this game at a bar with my partner. She and I could sit down, throw this on the table, chuck a couple dice, and drink a beer. And like, that sounds like a really great way to spend some nice low key time with someone that I really like. I think similarly, like, this is a good like warm up. If you have folks coming over for a game day and you have a friend that usually shows up early, really great quick little warm up. Because the game, takes like 15 to 20 minutes to play and goes really nicely. I think it fills a unique niche in the board gaming world and is absolutely worth checking out. Even if you're not normally a cooperative game player, I do think this does something a little bit different from those. And if you can think of a context in which this is something that would be good for you, I think it's well worth checking out. At the very least, it's free to try online, right? So go for it. And that is, in brief, why I think Skyteam is worth your time. All right, it looks like we have no special powers in this one. We've got the kerosene, which we're familiar with. The interns down here are basically throw a die on here that isn't this number and then place this number. It's actually a benefit, really. The only downside is you have to have trained the intern the whole way before the end of the round. And then wind here is the fun one. This adds to your speed number, your combined speed number, but your tilted plane tilts in the various directions, changing, the effect of that wind. We've got a long way to go, so we need those moves, and lots of little traffic spots in the middle that we need to avoid spinning left and right along the way. Pretty lucky traffic roll on our part. We only really need the one, which was already there, and we've got a one, so let's just help our buddy out. And ultimately we're going to be tilting left, so if we use a higher number on the left there, we're good. We're just going to jam a huge die over here, because I think we're perfectly content to move 2 spaces. And we can also move 1 if he wants to use low numbers for that. Seems a little weird to me to do that. I think he would put out his flaps rather than use low numbers for flying. And then we're going to put the 4 on the axis. Then we could put the 2 on the this or this. Looks like he's got some bigger dice, although maybe he's just reacting to the fact that that's how far away the planes are. Though he could move us and then use the closer dice, so I'm going to assume that he's not holding a 1. And if he is holding a 1, he can just put it here. It's not like it's a big loss for us to have done that anyway. Oh, of course, he has to play there anyway. Who am I kidding? I am ready. So we don't want to move once. I should type this to him, but we don't want to move 1 space. We want to move 2 spaces. I'm going to start off by playing a 6 here because I need to show him that I don't have a lot of flexibility in the axis, but we do need to head in my direction, so he needs a 4 or 5. I'm just going to assume that he has that. If not, he's going to start, hilarious, he's got a 6 on hand. Yeah, he still needs a 4 or 5, though, so we might need to start making coffee. Doesn't seem concerned. So to me, he's removed that. He said, I'm not concerned. So I'm going to put a 6 here so that we can jump over the black die, the traffic die. He's got to tilt us, and then we can double move. Depends on what his dice numbers are, but that's the ideal. Oops. Greedy on removals. Yeah, so he just saw the 2 3s. He got excited, started removing planes, even though we didn't need to, right? So he then unfortunately communicated to me that he was fine when I put this 6 here. And now we're probably dead. What did he just do? Oh, he did a reroll. I don't need to reroll. Hilarious. Six. Yeah, well. He needed to put one of these 3s on or one of his dice on the coffee. All right. So we're playing Hanada, heavy on the traffic, lots of like twisting, mostly towards the left side. And we've got the intern that we just mentioned from the previous one, so we can put a die here to use any of these dice. And then, of course, we've got the kerosene again, which is really popular. Don't usually have this much talking from people, which is great. All right, so he's just checking to make sure that I'm aware that there's a lot of planes to remove, right? This is essentially a long road with a lot of planes to remove. This is a dice demanding module. So I usually like synchronization because it gives you extra dice over the course of the game. And looks like he gave me pilot, which I think is fair enough. So since we need to remove a lot of planes, my job is primarily kerosene. Yep, that sounds good. I will try to avoid wasting dice on coffee. Drawing these sucks, though. Drawing these really sucks. I've got some huge numbers. We're going to put a 6 up here. He also doesn't want to use huge numbers. So he can use a 4, 5, or 6 up top there and be perfectly content. We might throw a 4 on the radio just for the future. Great. Let's just indicate to him what his move situation is. This really lets him have a ton of options for moves. Right, because he could play a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and we only move 1 space. And he's got already an opportunity to play a really high die up here on the axis. So, I mean, I guess we're in trouble if he rolled all low dice, but I think that's probably not the case. I mean, it's often not the case. An intern would be nice. I know he said not to coffee, but I think we're going to make 1 coffee. I like to have a coffee early in the game as defense. It just gives us some good options. And hopefully next turn we roll much lower. Oh, and he had a 2. Yeah, unfortunately he had to go on kerosene there. I think he could have chosen to sacrifice kerosene. And we can use our synchronization later. Yeah, just to indicate whether we can or can't clear the planes, essentially. Yeah, we just have too much to do to like mess around with the flaps. Even though we get like a rebate die on the synchronization, we just have a lot of problems to deal with. So let's deal with them. And we're fortunately already facing kind of in the right direction. In fact, we could kind of just keep this bearing forever and be fine. So now we actually actively want to move 1 space, because if we clear correctly, then we can actually clear 2 at a time. And on his side, you know, if he has a die if he has a 2, like he could, I think arguably even should play it now to remove this. Or if he has a 2 but wants me to like, yeah, okay, so that's, I have this 5, which I think could, I mean, I don't want to play the 3, I think. I don't think we want to spin all the way. I'm just debating whether no, I think it's fine. We can move now. So we'll level out now. We'll pull it back to our side later. No big rush there. I was just debating whether I like signal my engine move with like a 2 or a 3, but I think he seems comfortable. This lets him do anything 2 through 5. Emergency, we do have a coffee. So this is the safest number to play. That lets us move 1 space. And frankly, we could move 2 and be fine. We could move 0 and be fine. But that gives him all the options. I think with this 2, we're going to kerosene. It's just very painful to lose the 6 kerosene. So I'm suggesting that we move 2 spaces so we can skip over this, and then depending how things go, we can kind of skip again. I should remember, can play a 2 at any time. So he could actually just clear this straight out. And I can do the 5 for the high speed. If I go flaps early, we move 0. Sounds good. I can do anything. Yeah, I can do anything. So I'm going to pull the plane in my direction, because that's what we need to do if we move 2 spaces. And he said, if I go flaps early, we move 0. Because he has low dice. Yeah, I like that plan. This guy's good. You would, I think, have these kinds of communications with like a partner that you were playing with, but online, not necessarily. He's thinking a lot though, whether he can make it or not. Flaps early. He wants to move slow. So we're gonna take our. I think we need to start training this intern. I need a 5 later? I don't think so. Yes, because we're going to be moving fast next turn. Yeah, we're going to be having to double because we're going to run out of time. So I do need to keep that in turn. Yeah. And so now he's going to get to roll random die. And do something fun with it. Also now, in case he like changes his mind with the speed, we can abruptly decide that we're actually doing a 5 speed ourselves. If he rolls a low number, yeah, okay, 2 there, that's fair enough. I was debating doing that myself. I think no matter what, we play the 2 on the engine at this stage. Unless he jams something huge on the engines and is trying to speak a different language. Looks like he just rolled a bunch of really low dice. He wants to make sure that we can go slow enough. Place the intern. Oh, there is a 6 there. Oh, we could have moved. So we move 0. Okay. And I think I just do breaks a little early, but kind of like waiting for him a bit, right? Okay. And then we have a lot of planes to clear. So 1, 2, 3. We'll probably throw our 5 on here unless we draw a 6. Even then, if we draw a 6, it might go here, and then the 5 might go here. Ideally, we want to tilt once left. I like his general approach with, you know, the synchronization. Like, you want to signal it on the earlier side because, first of all, you then get to decide what your plan is based off of the die you roll. And second of all, you don't kind of leave your opponent guessing of like, should I be doing flaps or not? I think synchronization is really powerful, but people play it poorly. And we have a bunch of monster dice. We have a bunch of monster dice. God damn. You want to do flaps, so sure. That's my lowest die. So we're going to use the 6 probably for a 5. And just have a bunch of 5s. It's like 5, 5, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. I think I got to show him that my 5 goes in my tilt-a-whirl here. He says the 4 goes in the tilt-a-whirl. That means he has a 3 in his hand that he's going to play at some point. So I'll play the 5 to clear out some planes. And then I think he needs to play speed to indicate to me like what he wants from me. I really need you to play speed, buddy. Oh, he's got a 6, of course. Everything's a 6 thanks to the intern. We're gonna eat the kerosene. I think we just do some coffee here. Okay, we have to move 2. Wait, 1. No, it could be 2. Yep, agreed. We need to get moving. And it's only going to get harder to move as he puts more flaps up, right? So, in fact, it becomes impossible soon. So we need a 1, a 2. We're already facing the right direction. Really, if we just stick this bearing the whole time, we're good. So between us, we need a 1 and 2, and then big numbers. And this 6 is good for his move. So I need to put like a 5 or 6 here. The 3 is kind of garbo because it doesn't clear what we want. Yes. We want to wait and see what he clears, but we want to show him that we're good here with whatever number he plays. This 3 is probably going to become our great. So now we can help clear this. Right, so I waited from playing the 1 here to see what his low number was. Because we had lots of options of what could go here, but could only play 1 die. And now we want to advance the intern here. So 3 is going to be the number that goes in here. Technically, I want to keep it to the left. 3 is not very strong. We're going to use the 2 to do that because then the 1's either flaps or kerosene, depending on what he does. Here we go, flying. 2. It's our tilts. He has a 1 and a 6, which is a funky combo. We don't want to do flaps because it's the synchronization. So it's going to be our kerosene. Frankly, if he has a low number, he should be removing planes anyway. A little bit awkward. 1 at the end is nice for whoever's going to need it. If we put a 1 or 2 on kerosene next turn, we can ignore it the turn after, or vice versa. So clear till left move. Oh boy, this might require a reroll. These are bad numbers. A 4 is good for moving. I think I'm going to throw this out here. Because we're going to do this. We're going to move. We're going to... Yeah. This move, 4 goes here. Coffee, maybe? Then the last turn we're doing flaps. Wouldn't be surprised to see him throw this 6 on here or here. Let's see where he goes with it. Okay. So now I need to use a reroll because I need low dice. These are trash anyway. Not great, Bob. So he saw me use a coffee for this too, which has got to tell him that I've got a bunch of big numbers in hand. You know, I can put a 6 here because we're going slow as could be. So 1 6 is going to go here, and then the other 6 is going to go here, taking the 4 onto the brakes. And, you know, the reroll also should have given him plenty of flex on this. If he plays on speed first, it might mean that he's in trouble. Okay, so we're good on speed. If he played on speed first, it would mean that he was in trouble, couldn't deal with the axis, so we would actually need to take the coffee instead of deploying the brakes. Oh, I see. That's what he was stressing about. Yeah, I think we're pretty good. We don't have a reroll. We need 3 small dice. I should put this here. Because he needs to have a bigger die than I do. So ideally he has a 5. But I need to use that 1 for something, so I couldn't have put a 1 there, and the 5 or 6 are bad to put there. So the 4 going there indicates, hey, are we, what do we need for this? I think that he should play there immediately if he has a 5. I have to do this, which is going to be my 1, because that'll show him he's got some flexibility on breaks maybe. We're in trouble if we didn't roll low dice. I think I also make a coffee, right? There's only 2 things I'm left to do. I also make a coffee. Ooh, we might be in trouble. This might actually be a problem. Because I think that he's just indicated that he doesn't have a 5. He really needed a coffee. Well, he might have counted out his actions just like I did and said, okay, I can generate coffee earlier to make, he just straight up played a 5 without using a coffee. That's a really good sign. So I'll throw this here. If he throws something weenie on this, we have it 1. Hilariously, if he has 2 1s, he can't take the intern. But he should just play, if he has 2 1s, he plays this here. If he has a 1 and anything else, or a 3 or lower, because right, 1 plus 2, 3, a 3 or lower, and anything else that isn't a 1, he should take this right now. So he's good on the speed there. So we've got this locked in. We've got it locked in. Whew, nice and close. Looks like there you have it, folks. Skyteam.